Chairman. I think you've been asked about soft power and the need for it. Both of you said it's an important tool in the toolbox to win the war. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator.
Yes, Senator, yes.
And you're war fighters extraordinaire, so I appreciate you putting a plug in for soft power. Let me dig in a little bit. Can you win the war without it?
I don't believe you can, Senator. You can. You have everything. Comes from security. Once you have a secure environment, development needs to take place, and that's where soft power kicks in.
I agree with General Waldhauser.
So really, this war is about a glorious death being offered by the terrorist and a hopeful life by the rest of the world. Is that a pretty good description of what we're trying to do, is offer a hopeful life to compete with a glorious death?
I think in very general terms, I think it is about that. It is about offering alternatives to people to the situations that they find themselves in.
And the good news is that most people over there don't want what ISIL is selling. There's not a big demand for that product. Is that a fair statement?
Certainly on the African continent, that's true, very true.
I would agree with that, Senator.
Very few fathers and mothers want to turn their daughters over to ISIL if they don't have to. Is that a fair statement?
It is, Senator.
Yes, Senator, it's fair.
Is it a fair statement we're not going to win this war without partners in the faith? The only way you can win this war is have fellow Muslims fighting with us against ISIL.
It's my view that we have to have local forces engaged in this.
That's what by, with, and through is all about, Senator.
Okay, and is it fair to say that most people in the faith reject this hateful ideology?
That is true, Senator.
I agree.
So I want the committee to understand that any budget we pass that guts the State Department's budget, you will never win this war. As a matter of fact, ISIL will be celebrating. What is Russia trying to do in Libya, General Waldhauser?
Senator, Russia is trying to exert influence on the ultimate decision of who becomes and what entity becomes in charge of the government inside Libya. They're working to influence that decision.
They're trying to do in Libya what they've been doing in Syria?
Yes, that's a good way to characterize it.
It's not in our national interest to let that happen, is it?
It is not.
Okay, the political situation in Libya is pretty fractured.
It's very fractured, Senator.
So the commander of their military is at odds with the political leader supported by the UN. Is that fair?
That's fair, yes.
And if we don't fix that, it's going to be tough moving forward.
We've got to get the entities, specifically Haftar and the government and national court, together to make an accommodation in order to get any government moving forward.
Would you say that Secretary Tillerson is very important in this regard?
Very important, Senator.
So we need to put that on his radar screen.
We need to, yes, we do.
Okay, Syria. The Kurds that we're training, General Votel, are they mostly in line with the YPG? Are they YPG Kurds?
They are, Senator.
Okay. Is it fair to say that in the eyes of the Turks, the YPG Kurds are not much better, if any better, than the PKK?
Senator, that is the view of the Turks.
Is it fair to say that the YPG Kurds have a sort of a communist Marxist view of governing? That's what their manifesto says, anyway.
Senator, I think it's fair to say that there is some affinity back towards that.
So is it fair to say that we've got to be careful about overutilizing the YPG Kurds? Not only will it create problems for Turkey, other Kurds in the region don't buy into their agenda also.
I think it is important, and that is why, as we look to a place like Raqqa, we are attempting to do that with the majority Arab forces.
Is it fair to say that how we take Raqqa can determine the outcome of Geneva in terms of a political settlement?
I think it's certainly a key operation that will support that.
Is it fair to say that the balance of power on the ground in terms of Assad's regime, and he's in a good spot?
He is in a better position than he was a year ago.
That the opposition has basically melted away because Russia, Iran, and Assad have gone after them full-throated.
The support that's been provided by Russia and Iran have certainly enabled the regime.
Is it fair to say that most Syrians want two things, to get rid of ISIL, but also to get rid of Assad because he slaughtered their families?
the Syrians that I've talked to, I think would agree with that.
Is it fair to say it's in our national security interest for Damascus not to be handed over to Assad, a proxy for Iran, in any final settlement, that you cannot have Iran dominating Damascus?
Senator, I think that's certainly a decision for our political leadership to make, but it's certainly, I think there is a strong census that way.
Final thought. How we take Raqqa will determine if we can get a political settlement in Geneva. If we don't change the balance of military power on the ground, go outside of this Kurdish construct, reassure the Arabs that we're a better partner than we've been in the past, we're going to give Damascus to the Iranians. If we'll help those Syrian Arabs who want to fight and take their country back from Assad and his brutal dictatorship, I think we can change the balance of power on the ground and get a better deal in Geneva. So if the Trump administration is listening, how you take Raqqa will determine how successful we are in neutralizing Iranian influence and Russian influence. Mr. Chairman, you've been terrific on this issue. I want to thank you for your leadership.